So without further ado, we will start explaining why we are here. Steve and I are very excited to have everyone attend this. We're going to talk about a great opportunity for teachers around the world with Smart Class Series, and that is becoming a smart designer. And I will show you the PowerPoint that we're going to use today. You can get this PowerPoint. I will send this out on all the social media platforms after today if you want to take a look at it yourself. And let me just try and get that up now.
A couple of people saying hello. Thank you very much for your greetings, and hello, good evening or good morning or to everybody. Thank you.
Wherever you are, thank you so much for joining us. And yeah, as we go through, as I said, any questions you have about this opportunity, Steve and I will do our best to try and answer those as we are talking live. And if we don't, please send in your questions afterwards. Okay, so let's have a try of this. Steve, can you see that okay?
I can.
That's great. Okay, so as I said, Steve and I are here, and we're going to be talking to everyone about the great opportunity of becoming a recognized textbook smart designer. And I'll give the outline. This is what we'll be talking to you all about. First of all, Steve will actually tell you what a smart designer is. You're probably wondering exactly what that means, so he'll help explain that. What the benefits of becoming a smart designer are, some great opportunities for everybody if you are able to become a smart designer and want to get on board. Steve will make those very clear. You're probably also wondering, you've probably heard something about textbooks. Smart designers use a fantastic new range of books called Smart Communication. I'll be outlaying exactly what kind of books they are, so you can have a good look and a good think about whether this would be a fit for you, if this matches your style of teaching or the kind of classes that you teach. And after that, some simple information about how you can get involved. It's very easy, actually. And we'll address questions at the end again, but I'll try and do that as we are going through. I can see a lot of hellos coming up in the chat. Thank you so much to everybody who's joined us. So without further ado, Steve, I'm going to pass over to you.
Thank you, Robert.
To start explaining. So go ahead.
Thank you, Robert. Okay, so again, hello to everybody in the chats there. Thank you very much for your greetings. My name's Stephen, and let me just discuss what is a smart designer. Okay, so first of all, to understand this question, you kind of have to understand the mandate of these books. So obviously the books are specifically teachers, but the key point is that they're completely designed teachers in higher education. So in order to fulfill, and this will be the first point, a smart designer is a motivated higher education English teacher anywhere in the world. So let's get a little bit more specific here. What do I mean by motivated? So it's a teacher, it's the kind of person who will try something and then they'll go, okay, I think I can do that better. So they've got this pattern or this drive, if you will, to attempt, to critique, to retry, to iterate, if you will. So they're a professional and they're just applying their craft to creating a better teaching experience. So that brings me to the second point. We want that type of person to apply that iterative process to a textbook series. In this case, we're talking about the Smart Communication textbook series.
Steve, could you just lean forward maybe a little bit more? Sorry.
Oh, sure. Sorry, Bob.
Great. That's okay. That's better.
If you can't hear me,
that's perfect.
Put it out there, and I'll start acting like a trumpet here. Okay. So that's point number 2. We want that person. Okay, so the teacher is going to use the textbooks for 1 semester or term, or perhaps 2 semesters or terms. And essentially, what we're asking you to be is a detective. And what you do is you get out your magnifying glass there, and you're searching for the weak points in the textbook, and you're also confirming the strong points in the textbook. I mean, there's other things to look at. Is the book engaging the students, and how's the teacher's experience? There's lots of things there, but essentially, it's that sort of detective work on the effectiveness of the textbook. And that brings me to the third point, and that is you would take that information and then you would provide a weekly online feedback over the duration of the semester or the term. So, how do you do that? What are we asking? It's just as simple. It's a Google form. And how long would it take to fill that out? Takes about 10 minutes. In fact, what I do is I just have my computer sitting in front of me during the class, and as I'm getting ideas, I just fill them into the Google form and send it off.
It gets addictive, though. You do more than 10 minutes.
What's that, Bob?
It does get addictive, though. You do tend to do more than 10 minutes.
You can definitely do it in 10 minutes, but Robert's right. I don't know. You just get going down a rabbit hole, and I end up spending more time on it. But the key is that we want targeted criticism. We don't need a lot of details. We need the right details. So, for example, if there's a weak point, what's the weak point? Why is it a weak point? And then a suggestion on how to fix that weak point. And then conversely, maybe you're analyzing a strong point. Okay, so we're articulating this is a strong point. And then why is it a strong point? Because we need to understand that too, so that we don't throw the baby out with the bathwater, so to speak. So this is the smart designer's task. And that's all great. But the question then is, how can we say thank you for giving us your time and wisdom? And we've got a couple of cool things here that I'd like to tell you about. The first one is, we all know in this industry, it's hard to get recognized. We all struggle with that. So the first thing that we do is we just give you an official certificate of participation. So it's a real piece of paper. It's got real signatures on it. And it's an official qualification that says you are a designer of teaching materials. So you've sort of got that in your pocket. The next thing is you have priority on future developments. And I know, Robert, I'm not sure if I got my numbers right, but I would say we've got at least 8 years, maybe 10 years of ideas that we're going to put into this series. There's a lot of things that we want to expand on. And if you're a smart designer now, then you will get you get priority on the future opportunities. So
yeah, just to jump in, Steve. Yeah, I agree. I mean, just the uniqueness of the materials and just how well it's been going with all our current smart designers that we've been working with in Japan. I don't really see much limit to what this can do and where it can go. So
yeah, there's definitely, this is going to take a while to iterate this. And then that brings me to the next part. We would like to say thank you to you by putting your profile on our website. And we'll put your picture, we'll put a write-up on a quite a nicely designed page. And it's a great link to include in a resume or on a profile. And it just kind of says that there's a certain degree of ambition with this person, which I think employers would appreciate. And then the last thing is that you will actually have your name published in as a smart designer in the edition that you helped pioneer. So, for example, if you're going to a job interview, you open up the book, you point to your name, say, that's my name, and there you are, your name is published in a textbook series.
Could I jump in with a question from someone, actually,
Sure,
Steve? Okay. Thanks, Daniel. Got a really good question coming. So we basically vet the material. I guess, in a sense, you could consider it that, but what we're actually looking for is teachers to be really involved with the process of guiding the development of the books, because as we all know as teachers, when you get textbooks, it isn't really just a simple case of using them in a classroom context. Usually you have to adjust them, reorder things. So Smart Class series are really about just involving teachers as much as possible, but creating this win-win relationship. So teachers can not only help guide the development of the next editions and get recognized for that, but then obviously the students benefit from this and the textbook series benefits from it. So it was kind of a no-brainer for Smart Class series to put this together. So I guess in essence, Daniel, the answer to the question is yes, but there's a bit more to it than that. I hope
there's a bit more, because there's just a creativity that comes from a group of people, and we're trying to draw on that. And there's a sort of we just don't want you to say, check the boxes. There's an agency that you will have. If there's, we're looking for, ideas. Maybe they seem counterintuitive. That's fine. Give us the ideas. Let's see how we can do that. We're just looking to innovate, whatever it is. That sort of creativity comes from people. So we're really
totally
game on that.
Okay.
So then that is what I'll close with there. I think what I'll do is I'm going to push it back over to Robert, and Robert's going to help you get a sense of the textbooks and maybe the context, and if that textbook
can apply. The other thing as well there is just the I don't know if you mentioned this, Steve, that the names get published in the next edition of the textbook that people helped direct.
Correct.
So obviously you get recognized for that. This recognition thing is just, it's something you deserve for doing all this. So, and I had another good question come in from Kenyon. Thank you so much. I'll just throw that up on the screen as well. How could culturally specific feedback be implemented in future editions of a textbook? Well, actually, this is going to go out internationally. So if you are someone who has used these textbooks, you'll see that they aren't actually specifically designed just for one country. They're quite generic in the communication that they interact, help students interact about. So they are actually now available in over 12 countries. And, the content of these books wouldn't be, for example, just for Japanese students and the way they communicate. The style of them is actually for real world language communication. So it's a very good question. Thank you so much. And I'm glad you asked it, because these books are really able to be used pretty much anywhere and developed in terms of content for almost any context. But thanks, Kenyon, for the question. And you've passed over to me, haven't you, Steve? So yes, sir. I'm gonna take over for the PowerPoint then.
You have
okay, so yeah, you're probably wondering at this point then, some good questions coming in. What are these textbooks and would this work for me? It won't work for everybody, but if you are someone this would align with the way you teach, there are probably a lot of you out there. The smart communication textbooks are fantastic. They've been used by a lot of smart designers here in Japan and have been very, very successful in terms of helping students communicate. So there are 3 books you can see on the screen: Stage 1, Stage 2, Stage 3. And Stage 1 is most certainly the easiest. That would be for lower level students, perhaps first years in university, and that is just preferences within interaction. It doesn't focus on any specific grammar levels or vocabulary levels. It focuses on speech acts or language acts. So preferences with interactions. We would be talking about things like explaining hobbies or explaining trips you want to take, or perhaps restaurants you want to go to. So as you can imagine, this is very basic interaction. The second book, the opinions book, kind of pushes them up a bit if they've been using the first book for one semester, perhaps. Moving on to the second book, that is opinions. So that would be languages like I think, I don't think, I agree, I disagree, discussions and debates, those kind of classes a lot of us teach. And one of the topics in there is about city life, for example. So that would be, I think that New York is a fantastic place to live because it has so much to do. And you can see at the bottom under each of these books, it says lower to upper intermediate for the middle book. The range of students that can use these books is very, very wide, actually. You can have mixed level classes as well. They've been very successful. You could have 2 students in the same class, for example, who would say, I think New York is good because it has good museums. And then another student could say, I think New York has a lot of great points that could be really beneficial to students who live there, for example, this, that, and the other. So there's no boundaries on the language that students use when they use these books. It's focused on communication in that way. The third book is not out until next month. The beta test that has been run in Japan has been very, very successful, and we're getting a lot of good feedback about those. That one is the trickiest, and that is about critical thinking within interactions. So rather than the first book just saying I like, I dislike, the second book, I think, I don't think, or I agree, I disagree, the third book then takes any kind of plans that exist. For example, maybe partners in the classroom are planning a trip, and you would analyze their trip, maybe give them suggestions, critique it, maybe even improvements to that plan. So that is the kind of interaction that happens within those books. So as you can see, these 3 books link very well together, and they are available in 12 countries. If you don't live in one of those 12 countries, it's not too hard for some institutes to order from abroad as well. So if you do want to be a smart designer and you're selected, that is probably still possible. So what they're designed for, just to give you a kind of summary, if you run English communication courses, that could be English as a foreign language, English as a second language, business courses, a whole variety really, that involve things like discussions, debates, presentations, and essay writing. If you have writing courses, we've had smart designers use these for writing classes, and they've worked very, very well because students have to write out their feelings and thoughts on things, and that takes a lot of English practice as well, obviously. Speaking is definitely the priority. These are definitely speaking focused books. There are definitely listening sections. And as I said, writing skills are definitely worked on. The only type of course these aren't suitable for really is reading courses. So if you're a reading teacher and you only teach reading courses, probably not for you. But the other courses, would be surprised if there aren't many out there that these won't fit. So they're designed as most textbooks are really, 12 to 15 classes per book. Those classes can be around 60 to 120 minutes each. So if you're a university or college teacher, you're talking 1 semester or 1 term per book. And, books 1 and 2, stage 1 and 2, pair very well together for a year's course. And books 2 and 3 pair very well together for a year's course also. As I said, they match a wide range of speaking levels because of the way they are designed. I'll explain a bit more about that in a moment. Any class size too. There's a lot of autonomy in the use of these books. All the activities are pair work. There's a lot of feedback between partners. And I mean, as we all know, it's too difficult to watch students in classrooms all the time with communication, and we don't catch a lot of stuff going on. So things like, formative assessment between partners, peer review, autonomy, there's a lot of stuff built into these. So large classes even can use them. And Smart Class series are very keen to get feedback from people from all different aspects of learning for the book. So the last one there, also during the pandemic, they were very, very easy to use online. Me personally, and I know some of the smart designers had to switch to Zoom and stuff at certain points, and it wasn't really any problem because everything is pair work. As I said, breakout rooms work fantastically well. Everything you can do by QR code in the books. I'll explain that again in a moment as well. And that's it. Everything seems to be there, I think, if you can understand it, or I hope. Steve, anything to add on that? Did I miss anything?
No, it sounds great. We've got a couple of great questions coming up, and maybe at the end we
throw
could
some of those in. Yeah. Okay, just maybe just a comment that came in here from Emmy. Oh, thanks, Emmy. I think I just messaged you today, didn't I? Critical thinking is needed for Japanese language education. We couldn't agree more. These books go beyond just learning the language, but the language is a tool. The English should be used to do something. So stage 1 is them giving preferences, 2 opinions, and 3 critical thinking, and all of it has critical thinking involved really. So the English is the tool that they improve. They sharpen that tool as they go along with all the features in the book. So thank you. That's a really great comment to get.
Christopher has something quite interesting there, Robert. He's talking about weak points in my textbook. Students can't relate their experience in the book. And I think these ones...
yeah, I see that. Right, let's throw that one up here. Weak point in my textbook. Students can't relate their experience in the book. They have never worked in a company before. Yeah, I think, well, could I answer that, Steve? Is that
Go ahead.
Yeah, I think it's their experiences are really important. I mean, the topics that are ingrained into these books are all topics that students have experience with, interest in, background knowledge on. Those are incredibly important to motivate students and also reduce their cognitive load while they communicate, so they can really focus on improving their English when they're talking about things they know about and want to talk about. So there are aspects of the book, maybe the third book, that talk about, what kind of company do you want to join and things like that. But university students don't know too much about that. So this relates to issues like, world travel ideas or studying or relationships. And they respond really well to those kind of topics. So yeah, thanks, Steve, for seeing that. That was a great comment. Is there anything else? When do you expect to publish the next edition? That's a really important question. We haven't set a date yet because we're just basically launching these now. I don't know, I'd say within the next year or two, hoping. There's no set date. We're just waiting to see the feedback that comes in from the smart designers who get selected, and then put that all together for the next edition. Watch this space. It won't be too far away though, probably. Any other things? One more thing from Emmy. You added another thing. I'll throw you another one up, Emmy. We need 4 or 5 skills, but we're still divided by each subject. Yeah, that's something else that these books are trying to do. Bring together communication as a topic rather than speaking courses, listening courses, because everything ties together. It has to move as one to become a communicator of that language. So that's what these books definitely do. Okay, I'll probably move on to the next part.
Yeah, thanks, Robert.
So some of the unique features you'll see in these textbooks, some features that you see in other books, but the unique parts, the things we really would like to hear people's feedback about, but the feedback can be anything. Smart design. This is not to be confused with SMART goals. SMART goals are fantastic focus within learning, within classroom learning. They give students something that's specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and time-bound. So they can look in a direction, say, that's your goal, get TOEIC 800, you've got 6 months, go. And that's SMART goals, and it's great. But these books, the smart design behind these books, take it a little bit further than that. What they do is they help students track their performance along the way, because things go up and down, especially in English communication, how to get feedback, adjustments to the way they're using their language as they go along. There's a very good formative assessment style of learning built into these books. So if you're a formative assessment type person or researcher or teacher, maybe you want to help us play around with that. Related to that is the self-assessment tools. Within communication, it's really hard, almost impossible, it feels sometimes, for students to assess their partner in a speech or a discussion or a debate. So the assessment tools that are used are very, very unique. They're called smart check tables, and they're really, really powerful to help students assess themselves, assess each other, without the need for the teacher to be there all the time.
And again,
if you're an assessment person, go ahead, Steve. Yeah.
Just add to that, Robert, that self-assessment tools, I think the TBL people they would really sort of like understand very quickly why we're doing that and how that sort of fits in.
Sure, definitely. So if that's something that interests you, you can help us play with that too. Now, the thing that I could talk about, Steve gets bored to death of me talking about this. My favorite thing in the whole book is, or all the books, is the traffic light trainer. It's a trademark model Steve and I have been working on for years now. And it's just a very powerful way that decades of research into task-based language teaching, task planning, scaffolding, task repetition, all these wonderful things that people have researched about and produced fantastic research papers on. We're taking all of that research, some of my own, some from other people all over the world, putting it all into this model, and we fine-tuned it for years and years with classroom practice with smart designers, and actually found a really good way to scaffold shy students especially, or students without confidence, to speak more fluently within classes. So we'd love people who are interested to help us play around with that as well. There's an animated series, very entertaining, called Dwayne's World. We'd really like you to have a look at that as well if you're into, student motivation through the use of media and things like that. There's a concrete scoring rubric that's involved as well. As I was saying before, not only giving students tools to assess themselves or each other, but test time, the end of the course. How do you give those scores? I mean, I've struggled with that for years. Steve has, everyone has. How do you assess a presentation, for example, and feel like you're being fair and something the students can understand? There's a fantastic set of scoring rubrics that are aligned with the textbooks. So if you're a formative assessment person, the students are going straight towards those rubrics. and they're just so easy to use, and there's no real panic about testing anymore or anything like that. But we want the expertise of teachers out there to help us with that as well. And there's an online games as well. They're not a huge part of the books, are they, Steve? But they're very engaging. There's a lot of pedagogy involved in the games. They're reinforcing of the learning of the language that the students are using.
Is kind of the key thing feedback I've had from some teachers is that you don't have to register all your students to do anything. It's just a QR code. You scan it and you go. And the same with the Dwayne's World. It's just a QR code. You go right to the video, and easy, I think, is just the word.
I think so. Yeah, prep has kind of gone away now. It's kind of a nice thing when you're a busy teacher, right?
The prep just kind of goes out the door.
That's right. No messy signing up periods and stuff like that. So, okay, I will address some of the questions that have come in. There are a lot while I've been chatting away in a moment. First of all, if you do want to get involved, it's actually really easy. Again, I'm going to send out this PowerPoint online to everybody who's been here. So thanks so much for coming. Or just contact me on LinkedIn, Facebook. I have a personal website. Anywhere's fine. Or Steve. Support@smartclassseries.com. That is the support email address for the company Smart Class Series. All you'd have to do is email them a bit about who you are, teaching experience, where you're teaching, what kind of classes you want to use the books with, why you want to be a smart designer, and just be down to earth with them. Just a couple of paragraphs of honesty of what you want to use them for, what you want to get involved for. The deadline, though, is August 1st. You can see in red, so it's coming up pretty quick. They do want to make a selection of smart designers with a limited number, so please send those in as quick as you can. It says there the teaching period is usually 1 semester or 1 term, depending on what country you're teaching in. Sometimes, we call them terms in the UK. I know other European countries. You can do it for 2 semesters or 2 terms, which would be ideally using 2 books paired together. For example, book 1 and then book 2. That gives a lot of a better overview in your feedback of how everything worked, after you've used them as a combined pair, if you like. Smart Class Series also have a fantastic website. They also have a very good Facebook page, LinkedIn page, and a YouTube channel that's also up and running now as well. So let me try and dig into the questions.
Robert, we've had a couple of questions here that there seems to be a theme going through a couple of them. Forgive me if I'm getting the name wrong, but if it's Hind or Hind, could you please explain further how we can contribute to the design of the upcoming book? And that's sort of Sadath, forgive me if I'm not pronouncing it right, but he says something similar to that. She says something similar to that. Like, how can we determine the success of our book design? We should have tried to address a couple of those things.
Sure. Yeah, great. Thanks, Steve. Well, first, the one that I put on the screen there, thanks very much. How could you explain further how we can contribute to the design? Yeah, as Steve was saying earlier, and if you look back through the PowerPoint when you received that, basically every week that you use the textbooks, you just need to give about 10 minutes more, if you like, of online feedback of how that book worked or did not work in your classroom for you. So you're basically going to help us, with strong points and weak points, suggestions for changes with your own experience, and you'll get recognized as that as a smart designer, because in the next edition of those books, you'll see your name and you'll probably see some of those changes. Maybe not all of them. It depends what comes through for us. But we'll do our best to, guide the books in the way that teachers help us.
And if I could just also add to that, Robert, the whole thing is we're trying to create an experience for the student that engages the students and is also minimizes the workload for the teacher. So, if you're looking at the engagement level, how much the students are actually learning, how is this working for the teacher? We're defining success by how well we can achieve those things.
And the other comment you mentioned, Steve, as well, from Sadaf, thank you so much. How can we determine the success of our book design? Well, basically, in the next editions, the changes that you've helped us determine as a smart designer, if you are selected, you'll see them there and you'll see the impacts. But when you're teaching with these books as well, if you want to just kind of ad lib a bit and think, well, it'd be a bit better if I did it that way, try it, give us the recommendation. It might go global. It might be in the series. So, this empowerment of teachers and this recognition for doing it we see no reason why that can't happen. So
yeah,
I think we're drawing close to the end of the time. We said we were going to be chatting, and I hope we've addressed some of the bigger questions that come in. Thank you so much for the hellos and thank yous from all over the world.
yeah. Thank you.
There were a lot of people attending, and we're very happy to have been here and had this opportunity. Anything, Steve, you want to add at all before we
just say thank you. Thank you all for coming. And yeah, thanks.
Well, we hope to hear from you soon. As I said, I will put the PowerPoint online. Please contact us through our profiles on LinkedIn, or myself on LinkedIn or Facebook, maybe the easiest way to find us. Or you can contact the company, Smart Class Series. They have a very good website, www.smartclassseries.com. Okay, thank you very much, everyone. Good morning, afternoon, or good evening.
Good morning, good evening, good night.
All right, thank you very much.
Bye-bye now.